Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to highlight a comp that is actually being taught to us in tutorial 3.2 within Mechabellum, and it revolves around Vulcan, Marksman, and Fangs. Now in this game, I will be playing against Revin, who is also one of my mods on Twitch, very strong Finnish player, goes for the Fire Badger spec here with the Arc Lights and the Steel Balls, and for me, I was considering one of the either Steel Ball Crawler packs or the Crawler Stormcaller packs. I wanted to play a long range game, but I end up going for this Marksman pack instead because I think having the level 3 Marksman is going to be more beneficial for me than something like Aerial Spec, which I think is somewhat hard to make use of in these standard games. Now, let's have a look at how the board is set up here. Both of us do have the Steel Balls. My opponent decides to go for Fangs on the first round, perhaps expecting some aggro here, trying to make sure that the balls would get pulled towards these Chaff packs. And then for me, it's just going to be a standard setup here as well. I'm kind of playing around with the different setups. I'm first thinking about, oh, maybe I can put the Steel Balls behind the towers. That way they will split just like the Crawlers do. But I think twice about this, and I decided to go for a more conventional setup instead, with the Steel Balls to the sides and the Crawlers behind the tower. Mainly to try and prevent some type of splash from really messing up my setup. Now, first engagement here. Opponent goes for Steel Balls asymmetrically on one side. And that should mean that he does win that side. Of course, the other side is just an Arc Light and the Fang. So I should be able to win that. But we did lose one Steel Ball. And on this side, it looks like we have 7 Steel Balls still alive. Maybe we can kill one with the help of this Arc Light. We can. But 3 Steel Balls on my side versus 6 on his. And both of us still have Chaff, 2 Arc Lights, not to mention. Looks like a bit of a tough one. The Steel Balls from my opponents will go for the tower. Mine will get the debuff first. That means we should be able to get rid of this Arc Light, but we will lose another Steel Ball in the process. And as we move over, we have to deal with this debuff coming our way. And yeah, I don't think we'll be able to manage this. How many Steel Balls can we take out? At least one more. Can we take out one final one? No, we can't. So 4 Steel Balls left alive. And, well, we take the first damage of the game. Round 2, we get immediate reinforcements, and there's a couple of interesting things here. I could go Stormcaller. It's pretty good against the vertical Fangs that my opponent has in front of his tower. Could go for the Wasps as well, which is what my opponent does, since neither of us is really able to deal with Wasps yet at this stage. And I could go Marksman. Now, I decided to go Marksman here and kind of give up some early tempo. I know that my opponent probably will go Wasp. But I want to get the Marksman deployments on, because my whole idea here is to eventually go for a Vulcan build with Vulcan spawning Marksman and Marksman spawning Fangs through Shooting Squad. And so getting more of these Marksman deployments here, I think, was going to benefit me in the long run. I decided to sell out of my Steel Balls on the left, and I level the one on the right, which did pick up enough experience to be able to get that level. And I was kind of hoping to run through this side of the map more easily. And also I was trying to already recover some money, because eventually I won't care for all of the other units, right? Even the Arc Lights probably will get sold at some point to make place for Vulcans. Opponent here goes for another Wasp himself. Also does have access to the Fire Badger, so it's our Power Spike turn for the both of us. And let's see how this goes. More Arc Lights have been added as well. Left side here, I'm doing pretty well. The nice thing is that my level 3 Marksman does one-shot the Steel Balls, but the Wasps on that side do annoy it for quite some time. Maybe I should have put this Marksman on the right, where it would have been a bit more safe. Left side also seems to struggle. Those Wasp, I think, have done quite the number on my level 2 Steel Balls, which are nowhere to be found. And yeah, left side will crumble as well. This is somewhat to be expected. Again, I kind of knew my opponent was going to go Wasp, and it would be annoying to deal with, but I'm willing to tank this to be able to get those, well, late game scaling units on my board. Round 3, we get intensive training here as an option. Underground threat, not terrible either, but intensive this early on I think could be nice, so I believe that is what I'll be going for. Yes, it will be the intensive training. Let's see what my opponent does. Underground here is fine, but it's not that much of a threat for either of us. Kind of hard to make use of, so intensive here makes a lot of sense. And I get my first Vulcan. Now, I decided to sell out of my arc lights because I really wanted the Vulcan in front of the tower. I think what I should have done probably is just sell out of this steel ball on the right, since, well, it did well, but it's worth more money, and that way I could get 2 deployments down and still use my intensive training to maybe make a level 2 Vulcan on the left. So I think bit of a misplay here. Instead, I just forego the level, or at least I don't use it on a Vulcan, and I buy another Fang to be able to defend the left side. And then with the intensive available, I think I level up the steel ball here because I'm going to sell out of it anyway. And I was just hoping that it would crush the right side with another level. But I don't like this round all that much. If I would have to replay it, I would probably just play for the level 2 Vulcan and forfeit the right side. Opponent here ranges his arc lights, already has a level 3 one because of the intensive that he picked up as well. Adds a steel ball on the right to try and contest my high level steel balls. And we'll have to see how this turns out. The Vulcan on the left doing a great job. Vulcans oftentimes will do just fine into same level steel balls as long as the steel balls don't have something like armor enhancement. And even if they do, Scorch will often then negate those kind of techs. Marksman on the left doing a fine job. Right side actually kind of okay as well, but this Arclight an absolute menace. Look at the damage dealt so far, 36k. That is very scary, and it might level up again. Vulcan's still alive though. Marksman here as well, making its way over, but I think we'll get a really bad debuff timing. We do, and the first thing to shoot at my high level Marksman is this Arclight, and it will level up. So level 4 Arc next turn. If we look at the damage, it's ramping up, still going. 45, 50k this turn. Absolute menace of a unit on the board there. This turn I decided to pick up Amp Core relatively quickly. It's a nice item for my Vulcan. I could have also picked Tank Production Line though. This is also quite a nice item, I think. Especially for the giant board that I'm going for. So I might have picked this if I were to do it again. There's an argument to be made for both, but I think I had enough money here to be able to justify picking the more expensive item. We sell out of the steel balls, so we recover 400 resources there, and then we add another Vulcan on the right side to make sure that we are symmetrical in the setup. Now my opponent picks up the levels on the arc lights. And yeah, that is level 4 on the arc. Picks up the Amp Core as well. And now round 4, we already see a worm come out. So it's going to be the famed Arc Worm comp, which is still very powerful in high MMR. Absolute staple of this long-range type of game. And I decided to pick up Scorch on the Vulcans. Now, usually I wouldn't recommend necessarily taking this. But because my opponent had 3 steel balls, now 2, he sold out of one of them. But I thought Scorch would be nice. If he takes the level here, I could have been in some trouble. So I want to make sure that I have enough damage to be able to clear that. And since we didn't take the more expensive item, I actually have enough money left to be able to grab a second tech. And we already have Best Partner available as well. For those of you that don't know, Best Partner will summon one Marksman at the start of combat. And the Marksman will be same level as the Vulcan who spawned it. And there's quite some nice synergy here because the Marksman has a similar tech with Shooting Squad, which does the same but spawns 5 same level Fangs at the start of combat. Worm here though on the right side, absolutely chewing through my army. Vulcan definitely not enough. And those Wasps still a bit of a nuisance. But now that I see the Worm come out, I know that Fangs will be very important in this game. Not just as a counter to Wasp, but also as a counter to Worm with the Ignite. Made a video about that as well. Link will be up top in case you're interested. But yeah, this round, the Sandworm there absolutely crushing and even picking up a level that doesn't look too good. We get 3 units though on round 5. Level 3 Typhoon. I decide to pick it up and immediately sell it. And that allows me to get into double techs now onto my Fangs. Immediate range against the Wasp. Immediate ignite against the Worm. Intensive is back off cooldown as well. And I still have 800 to spend. And here I decide to go for 2 more Vulcans. The reason for this is that I wanted to get as many Vulcans on the board so that we would spawn as many marksmen as we could, and then next turn I can try and play for shooting squad, which will spawn Fangs not just from the marksmen that I already have, but also from the Fangs that get spawned from the Vulcans. So this is still a bit of a setup turn, and the opponent here went for the Sabers, sold out of one of them, keeps the other on the field, and intensives a new Worm on the left, whilst giving them armor as their first tech. Very tanky, right? Almost 200k here on the Amp Core Sandworm, 150k on the Sandworm here with just the level and the armor. But luckily for us, Ignite does not care about that, right? It deals 6% HP per second when a unit is ignited. And that means that it'll take about 16 seconds to kill anything with just the ignite effect. Alright, well, let's see how this goes. Those worms certainly will be the most important thing to take down, and we'll have to look at how well our Fangs are doing. Fangs do manage to find the mark, and so you can see that this worm is already starting to tick down somewhat, but it manages to lock onto the Vulcan instantly. How long can we keep it in place is going to be the question. It does go underground, but it's nearly dead. Right side, not looking as good, but about 30% hit points remaining. Still a couple Fangs in the backline, DPS in a way. Left side, that worm will fall. Right side, it will actually go down as well, and even if we do end up losing this round, at least we've gotten rid of the big giants, saving ourselves 700 hit points. But yeah, this Arclight is still absolutely carrying the side of my opponent. 50k damage again this turn. Grabs a level. And yeah, that's a level 5 Arclight that we'll have to deal with in the future. Round 6. Improved firepower control, heavy armor available. I decided to skip because I didn't think any of these items really did anything. Most of my damage against the big targets comes from Ignite, so I don't have any uses for the improved firepower control system. I probably could have picked up the armor though and chucked it onto one of the Vulcans. I just wanted to have as much money as possible here to be able to get more Vulcans. Also, grab myself shooting squad. And then add 2 more Fangs to the board. So making sure I have all the deployments I can. And now the board is starting to look like something I had in mind. 5 Vulcans so far, spawning 5 marksmen. And those 5 marksmen will all spawn 5 Fangs as well. Which will of course have the range and the ignite. And the nice thing about the shooting squad is that the Fangs are quite spread out when they spawn. So they are not very easy to take out for things like Arclights. More worms here show up. Improved firepower control system ends up going onto this sandworm on the left. And EMP is the go for my opponent on Arclight. Usually this is a pretty good tech, but in this case I don't think it does all that much. Reason is, shooting squad triggers at the start of the battle, just like best partner does on the Vulcans. So that can't get EMP'd. And my other tech currently is Scorch. But the Scorch at this point is just a bit of a useless tech, I would say. Most of my damage is coming from the Ignite anyway, so I don't mind that being EMP'd so much. And yeah, we can see here left side going much better. The Wasps are now dealt with. Worm getting awfully close to the tower, but I think we'll be able to just about get rid of it. The only issue now is still these backline Arclights, which are outranging my marksman by 8 meters. So range, probably something that I'll have to pick up here at some point on the marksman as well. And yeah, we barely lose the round. Oil was used, but lucky for me, I somehow did not ignite it. Maybe I would have liked it to ignite though, because now I have to deal with it again. Pick up the barrier, both of us do. Nice item on the Vulcans. I don't know how good it is on the worm. The awkward bit about this is that it usually tends to get popped before the worm is even within striking distance. So it's a bit of a useless item most of the time. I decided to mobile beacon some of my units to the right here, trying to make them avoid the fire. Because it'd be a bit of a shame if part of my army ends up dying to fire that I ignited myself. More worms being added and strike now being picked up. I decided to go for even more Vulcans, and because I do that, I don't quite have the money for something like range enhancement on the marksman. We'll have to see if that affects anything. Temp range is picked up. And my opponent goes for even more sandworms. The strike, by the way, means that the first attack after a sandworm emerges will have 30% bonus attack and also have 10 meters more splash. And it's that splash that's really the important bit, because that'll allow him to chaff clear a bit better. Currently, the Fangs don't have portable shield. It is something that I'm meaning to pick up, but it's very expensive as a third tech. 900 resources for that. But it'll be worth it, for sure. As both the opponent's arc lights and the worms will not enjoy dealing with that, and it'll effectively double the amount of chaff I have. For now though, more Vulcans still, which means more marksmen and more Fangs. We can see the army there starting to march in. And let's see, can we deal with the worms? One down already. These are only level 1, so they do take quite a bit of damage from the marksmen on top of the Fangs, which means that they will die first. The level 3 sandworm though, scary. Very scary. About down to a third of its hit points now, but still keeps on ticking. Ignite is an effect that will last 2 seconds when applied. And I think we've just about got enough Fangs left to be able to take it down. Yes, we do. Left side, though, looks like it is kind of collapsing. Arclight there. We'll probably manage to take down this tower. Marksman will shoot at it once, but now the debuff. But can the Arclight even kill the marksman? Looks like the answer will be no. Level 5 just powers through that debuff. And finally we pick up our first round. Mind you, I thought that I did more damage to my opponent this game, but it was actually the first damage that we dealt. And we still have 4,700 hit points to get through as we enter round 8. Very scary thing indeed. Now, this round, I was meaning to pick Fortress and just sell it for the resources, but I accidentally go for Phantom Rays. So, yeah. Not ideal. But, well, you have to make do with what you have, I guess. I can sell out of one of them here and keep the others on the field. It's not terrible. My opponent doesn't have the best anti-air. Selling out of one of them, though, allows me to pick up the portable shield on the Fangs as a third tech, and I still have 200 left to buy myself 2 Fangs. Or even a bit more. Actually, never mind, I hadn't sold out of the Phantom yet, so have enough now for something like a Vulcan plus a Fang, or whatever I may want to get. Looks like it's going to be at least one more Fang, and a second one, maybe a third. Could also get the attack enhancements or defense enhancements. Deciding to loan here. Also getting the temp range. And picking up some levels on my marksman. Opponent here goes for the melters. I'm not sure that this is that useful. Melter Arc Storm probably would be decent into this if it was Firestorms, but right now I'm not sure the melters add that much. But it does kind of protect him against potential air threat, which was available from the free unit drops. Third tech, by the way, picked up on the sandworms. Replicate now being added as well. Opponent trying his luck on the right side of the board with this diagonal beacon. But that does mean that this left side will be somewhat uncontested. And the right side is pretty strong in and of itself. The nice thing about the Ignite is that it doesn't matter that these are level 1 100 cost units. The Ignite will still be applied all the same. And yeah, we can see here that we're doing quite well. Level 3 Sandworm now down as well. Just a couple larves still alive. Worm there will burn underground to the Ignite. And we're also pushing into the left tower, and it looks like we might be able to finally do a bit more than a couple hundred worth of chip damage. Melter will go down, and now with the Arclight left, he will fall too. And we're starting to get towards a bit more equal of a hit point situation here. Orbital Bombardment shows up. I, of course, pick it up. My opponent has a bunch of wasps, so it's a nice spell to pick up. Opponent goes for it as well. We have to shield for that. I don't want to lose any of my fangs, even though they do have shield. It would still be nice if my opponent could get rid of the shields with the orbital. And I don't want that to happen. Now, we finally have enough to get range enhancement on my marksmen, so they won't get outranged by the Arclights anymore, and I just pick up more Vulcans. Some late Vulcans here. Again, that will spawn late marksmen with late fangs, and I just get a lot of value out of the tech that I chose by doing this. Also selling out of my phantoms just to get a bit more money, and I didn't really look at how useful they were. They did all right, but I don't need them for any specific job in this comp, so that's why I'm deciding to sell out of them. Opponent here does decide to shield. I'm not sure that that's the right call. He doesn't have that much chaff, and I mean the Arclights and the other units probably don't die to this orbital. And the wasps will die to it anyway, since he can't shield them. Finally, I pick up both of the tower enhancements, by the way. I was postponing it this game because it doesn't add all that much. Again, Ignite is not an effect that cares about any of this, so there wasn't all that much of a reason for me to grab those enhancements. But now that we're starting to spawn more marksmen, and maybe I'll be able to get or work my way towards double shot, I can start thinking about the damage upgrade for the marksman. Let's see how this orbital does. One wasp pack there, already dead. Other one will go down as well, so already I got good value out of that. Beacon this time will go into the left tower again. Opponent doesn't want to try his luck on the diagonal anymore. And let's see, left side starting to kind of crumble. We somehow are not managing to hit this level 3 sandworm, which is a bit of an issue. But the right side winning handily. Melting points have been ranged, but I don't think they'll be too much of a threat. Getting stuck on the fangs as expected. Arclights as well, really struggling to clear. And left side ends up winning after all. I mean, the stalling power of these fangs without anything like Mustangs or fire being involved is truly something to behold. And now we have equalized things as my opponent falls down to 1700, and we're starting to pick up the pace. Round 10, enhancement module here shows up. I decide to pick it up. Acid Blast is available as well, but I don't really want to use that, mainly because the worms are, for the most part, on my side of the field, so I'd have to drop it over here. And I feel like it's just not adding all that much. My opponent could always beacon around as well. I'd much rather get the enhancement module, get some value out of the Phantom that we leveled up and sold, and then level up another Vulcan. I also maybe wanted to shield up front at some point, since my opponent might try to go for some type of oil play. I decided to pick up more fangs, and yeah, you can see here I go for a forward shield because I was expecting that my opponent tries to go for some type of fire play, as it's the only thing that I lose to realistically. Only thing that would enable him to kill all of my fangs. I also put crawlers here all the way up front. That is to prevent something like EMP melting points, and also the fire callers to instantly hit a useful target. But EMP this turn doesn't come out. Fire, however, is being purchased. Triple Storm Caller. And yeah, very happy with this read. Allows me to prevent a little bit of a disaster. Fire will still land pretty well, though. But lucky for me, those fangs do have the range and they managed to stay at a relatively safe distance. But now, with these circles on the board, it means the fourth tech on the sandworms from my opponent has been picked up, and it is Sandstorm. A Sandstorm reduces the range of any ground units inside by half. So yeah, we can look at these marksmen, 97.5 meters of range. The Vulcan there, 55 meters of range. We still managed to get out ahead though. Fire, I think, not quite landing. We still have some fangs left alive in the back. Right side, very much alive still. And is that going to be enough? Not quite. The triple Vulcans there, not able to finish off my opponent. And we go into round 11. Now, round 11, Sticky Oil Bomb shows up again. Of course, I'm expecting my opponent to pick that up. So we'll have to shield on the left side once more. I decided to pick up the oil as well because, well, I could try and land it onto my opponent. I make a bit of a mistake here in the end. I think I go for like a diagonal oil. But there's not that much chaff, so I probably just should have used it vertically to try and kill this Stormcaller and make sure that it has no value as the round goes on, because these rounds do go on for quite some time. A lot of money available here. And there is a play here that I could have made, but I don't do it. Because I saw how handily, or how easily we won the last round. And so I didn't expect to be in any trouble, really. So I just end up going for more of the same. More Vulcans, more Marksmen, more Fangs. As I had no real reason to believe that I would lose. But there is another play here I could make, which would be to buy a level 2 factory in the back, sell the Vulcan here to get even more money, and just use that late factory to kind of help out and kill these sandworms. Instead, it's just more late Vulcans from me, and also some missile interceptors to try and intercept some of these missiles. Fire will land. I don't fully block the oil on the left, but I think it should be fine. Normally speaking, the Fangs shouldn't walk up that far. At least most of them shouldn't. And let's see how this goes. The fire does land, but it doesn't burn these Stormcallers. I think right side should still be fine, but left side will have to look at what is going on. And somehow, some way here, left side is getting through, and I wonder if that is maybe these front Fangs burning up. Or just the sheer amount of extra sandworms causing trouble. Right side is victorious. And we do manage to find this melter, which will go down. How much can we do with the sandworms? And we do manage to get the debuff, but the nasty thing about the worms is that when they're underground, if they're debuffed, you still can't hit them. So not that useful for me. And this worm here, Absolute Assassin, goes for my tower, gets the debuff, and even worse, goes after all of my missile interceptors. And so I lose all of the investment that I made. And that's a sizable amount of damage coming my way with 4 worms still alive. That was not meant to happen this turn. Now Acid Blast shows up once more on round 12. And I do decide to go for it this time, just as a bit of an extra Hail Mary attempt, I guess. And so now I decide to go for the play that I probably should have made last round, which is going to be the level 2 factory. We sell out of our level 3 Vulcan on the right to be able to purchase this. And then we go for level 2 factory launcher overload. Also making sure that I beacon it towards the left. We grab another oil from our tower this time, and I will go for a vertical setup. Opponent here decides to beacon everything onto the left. Even more worms being purchased. And I do have double shot on my marksman, by the way. Something I picked up, I think, last turn or the turn before. And let's see how this goes. I also pick up the armor on the factory to make it 50% tankier. This tower has been leveled. And, well, let's see how this goes. Some of these worms do end up stopping inside of the acid, and this melt will have to walk through slowly, so we might be able to take out some of these giants just by the acid effect alone, which is much slower than the ignite, by the way, at only 3% a second. But we are managing to stall the left side for quite some time. It looks better than last time. And now the factory here tanking admirably for the rest of the board. Some late fangs arriving. I'm not sure if they are able to fire or not. The sandstorm, I think, is creating some problems, but right side absolutely crushing. Level 4 tower here will take quite a bit of time to take out, and we might just be able to finish off the remaining units before that. We are, and with all these giants left alive, that is going to be a massive turn, and we do close out this game. Bit of a long one. I think that there were ways for me to close this out earlier. I just kept buying Vulcans, and I probably should have bought a factory a bit earlier. But it's a tricky game against a very strong opponent using one of the strongest comps available at the moment. And I think it's a good testimony to how powerful this Vulcan Marksman comp can be, considering it was up against probably, yeah, the best strategy you can face right now. The nice bit is the marksmen are quite good in standard still. I don't run elites because I think it's not necessary for the most part. The Fang spawn is really nice. Again, it's one of the prime counters to Worm, so it's a nice synergy that you can spawn marksmen, which spawn Fangs. You've basically got everything covered. And once it does get rolling, I mean, look at the amount of Vulcans we have here. I even sold one at the end, but that's a whopping 10 Vulcans on the board, and we sold the 11th one last turn. Anyway, if you like this comp, if you play it, let me know down below. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, have a lovely rest of your day, take care, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.